Welcome back to Girl Take the Lead, the podcast where we dive into the real, raw, and remarkable stories of women showing up, speaking out, and shaping what leadership looks like today. Today's guest is Molly Smith, a Gen X breakthrough and emotional wellness coach. She's also a best-selling author and the radiant force behind Next Step LLC. Molly is often described as the female Ted Lasso, known for her grit, heart, and infectious optimism. After 25 years in the corporate world, including time in the C suite, she made the bold step into purpose driven work that lights her up from the inside out, which you will totally hear today. In this conversation, we dig deep into emotional healing, mindset, and alignment. Molly breaks down the tools she uses, like her STEP formula, the mindset inventory, and the emotion code, to help people get out of their own way and take aligned, sustainable action. You'll also hear her read from her book, What the Funk, and share what she wishes she could tell her 20-something self. Molly brings warmth and wisdom. And by the end, I think you'll agree that you'll feel a little more free to trust your gut and lead with your whole heart. Let's dive in. Thanks for being here. So, Molly, welcome to Girl Take the Lead. We're going
Thank
to have so much
you.
fun with this episode,
Yeah.
especially the title of your book. But first, let's, if you would, introduce yourself to our viewers and listeners so they get to know you.
Yeah. Well, my name is Molly Smith. I live in Dallas, Texas. I've been here the vast majority of my life. I am a breakthrough and emotional wellness coach. So I help people pivot out of the funk, get into a place of alignment. And that usually requires tuning into what we're feeling, our emotions, and all those things. I also still work in corporate America part-time. And also, I'm a speaker and an author and a mom to two adult-ish, I call it adult-ish boys who are, young adults trying to figure out, what's next for them. So,
Oh, great. Well, you have to tell our listeners and viewers about your book.
yes. So, the name of my book, it came out in January 2025 this year. And the name of the book is called What the Funk. What the Funk, and it's a practical guide to getting out of the funk you're in with your health, mindset, and purpose. And it's so fun. So this book, I share a lot of stories from my life, specifically over the last 5 or 6 years, where I found myself in a funk,
Mhm.
and how I actually, pivoted out of the funk, out of that overwhelm, out of that feeling
Mm.
stuck. And so it's a little bit of a memoir. I share stories in there, but also it is truly a guide where you can flip open to any chapter and take a look and say, okay, is this me? And at the end of every chapter, I end it with, how do you know you're in a funk? What does pursuing alignment look like? And what's your next best step?
Mhm.
Because what I found, at least for the women that I've worked with and my peers and those that I speak with, it's like when we want to change, when we want to drive more fulfillment or joy in our lives, where we are right in that moment sometimes feels so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so when we think about, okay, what's the journey to get from where I am today to where I want to go, it feels so long. It feels like, again, like I said, overwhelming. And really, all you need to do is take the very next step. It's the
Mm.
only thing, right?
Yeah.
You don't need step 22. You're on step 2. Just go to step 3, right? And
Yeah.
then step 4. And it becomes clearer as you go.
Yeah.
So that's all baked into my book, What the Funk.
Well, a lot of times, it's hard for us to catch what's going
Mm.
on,
Yeah.
and I know you bring up some distinctions around emotion code,
Mm.
muscle testing.
Yeah.
So, what are those distinctions and how
Yep.
can they help us
Yeah.
when we're in a funk? Or we're not even sure what's going on. Like I can't even put a name to it yet.
Right. Yeah. So So when we think about being in a funk, being overwhelmed, not being where you want to be, like most people can get very clear on, I don't want to stay here.
Mhm.
Right? So that typically is where people can camp out. And so what's happening there is a lot of times we're ruminating in our head. We have negative thought patterns. We're going down the proverbial rabbit hole. We're future tripping. One of my clients just coined that phrase, and I was like, that's brilliant. So we're thinking about the future, and it's keeping us stuck from acting in the present, future tripping, right? So
Right.
and we've all been in that space, right?
Mhm.
And so what happens is we get, dysregulated in our nervous system. And when we tune out emotionally where we are, that keeps us stuck. And so over the last year, I was introduced to an energy healing modality called the emotion code. It's a modality that was created by Dr. Bradley Nelson, who is a former chiropractor. And essentially, what the emotion code does is it helps people identify and release their emotional baggage. Now, I don't know about you, but I got a boatload of emotional baggage, like a lot, and as do most people, right?
Right.
And so, and I'm a Gen Xer. I'm in my late 40s, and as I look around to my peers and my clients, I see, I was not raised knowing how to name, attune, and acknowledge my emotions.
Mhm.
We were the latchkey kids, and it was like you worked it out with your friends, on the playground or in the schoolyard or whatever it is, but you never actually developed the skill of saying, "Hey, I'm disappointed, I'm upset, I'm
Yeah.
humiliated," or all of those things. So the naming of those emotions, and when we don't do that, that energy, the energy of that circuit, the emotion tied to whatever circumstance, can get trapped in the body and
Mhm.
create imbalances, which can manifest as mental or emotional or physical, issues.
Mhm.
And so the emotion code is a way where we can connect to the subconscious. So most of everything that happens in our bodies and all of those things happens from a subconscious standpoint. Only 5% of how we operate every day is from the conscious mind standpoint. So the motion code uses muscle testing, which is very common with chiropractors and massage therapists and all of those
Mhm.
things. It's applied kinesiology. We use muscle testing to ask and get answers from the subconscious mind. So, muscle testing, we can ask yes or no questions, and do muscle testing to identify which emotions you have trapped, and we can even get very detailed. What age was that emotion trapped, and if we need to find out any more, then we'll continue asking yes or no questions until we get all of the information about that particular trapped emotion, and then we can release it. It's a very gentle process. You just swipe your hand, either your hand or a magnet, over the governing meridian, and that releases the negative trapped energy associated with some past circumstance or event where you didn't fully process that emotion.
Wow. That
It's
sounds good,
it,
though.
it's such a beautiful practice, and what I love about it is we can release trapped emotions like this over Zoom, right? So I'm in Texas, you're in California, right?
Right.
Yeah, and so a lot of the clients that I work with specifically on the emotion code, we're working virtually over Zoom. And
Mm.
so your subconscious knows what it's ready to release. And so we're just identifying that and we're releasing it. And what I also love about this is that you do not have to reprocess or live through or process in cognitive behavioral therapy all of these emotions that we're releasing,
Mm.
which is fantastic because as a 49-year-old woman, like if I had to verbally process through cognitive behavioral therapy all of my trapped emotions, that's all I'd do. Like forget
Yeah.
helping people, making an impact on the world, raising a family, making a living. That would be my full-time job.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful complement to any other kind of healing modality that kind of just presses the gas, if you will,
Yeah.
on some of that release and healing. And so one of the things, like with my book, I introduced that concept of, okay, let's figure out, are you in a funk? How do you get out of a funk? How do you pursue alignment? And the emotion code just comes right alongside it,
Yeah.
especially with my clients that I love working with, because it's again pressing the gas on transformation. Those who are ready to say, I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
done being stuck. I'm done being overwhelmed. I want more in my life. I want more out of my life. And so
Mhm.
anyway,
Yeah.
I just absolutely love it. It's really, really, really powerful.
It sounds like it is very powerful to help
Yeah.
people. So, when those is it that certain emotions, not all emotions are gonna be negative, but is it
Right.
the certain emotions that get us into that funk? Have you seen
Mhm.
certain things come up for people?
Yeah. So I think so what's fascinating is like you can get into a funk for any variety of reasons, and that funk could have some underlying trapped emotions in it.
Mhm, mhm,
And so there are a couple of things. So like the my book will take you through, okay, how do I identify if I'm in a funk? So it's more of the cognitive mind, the conscious mind, if you will, trying to figure out, okay, how do I step through this?
mhm,
And what I've found is that, at least for me, I'll just speak for me, is that a lot of my trapped emotions, a lot of the funk that I've been in my life, has been rooted in trying to protect myself from humiliation, embarrassment, and
mm,
shame.
uh-huh.
You know, like, and I
Well,
don't
you're
know if
not
you
alone in that. It's just
I know. You know, and it's fascinating. Like all of these different kind of modalities have been coming to light over the last year as I've started to do my deep work, and
yeah.
also working with my clients, things like internal family systems therapy. I
Yeah,
don't know,
I
like,
love that.
oh my gosh, IFS therapy. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
amazing, you know?
Yeah,
And
we
so
did an
it's like,
episode on that. It was just so good for us. Yeah.
yes. And so I combined you know, like me personally going through some parts therapy, but every time I'm connecting with a part
Yeah.
and really getting curious and that self energy coming out, I always do an emotion code clearing. It's like,
Mm,
what other emotions are trapped connected to this part? Again, it's just let's press the gas on some
yeah.
of that healing and that release.
That's such a good
Yeah.
point because there
Yes.
are emotions associated with those different
Yes.
parts that came from
Yeah.
different experiences that we
That's
had.
right. That's right. That's right.
So, so Molly, how do we get alignment? Like, how do you
Mm,
see these things all kind of getting and pulling
yeah.
together?
Oh, yeah. See, I love alignment. So let's level set by I'll give you my definition of alignment, just so we can kind of level set. But I think it's a little bit different for everybody. But living congruently or living in alignment to me means that what I say I want, what I say I value, actually my actions actually support that and mirror that.
Hmm.
Okay, so there's congruence there between what I say I want, what I say I value, and what I'm actually doing. So let me give you a really great example. Back before I had a pretty sizable weight loss journey, I write about that in my book.
Hmm.
Back in 2019, I always like I wanted to be a healthy weight. I wanted to feel good in my own skin, yet my day-to-day actions and habits and so forth did not support that. So that's living incongruently, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good example of living incongruently. So how do we pursue alignment? Well, like the first thing that I do, and I do this on the regular now, like sometimes, and I'll preface this by saying I wrote a book about getting out of the funk, but I still find myself in a funk, and I find like I just, you know,
Yeah.
I've nailed the formula, but I don't always apply it immediately, right? You know, sometimes I'm a 3-year-old toddler saying I want to be stuck in my discontent for a little bit before I actually, okay, let's pivot.
Yeah.
Right. And so what I do, so I walk through kind of a 3-step process of kind of built this into a framework. So step one is, what is my current reality? Where am I
Mm,
today? Right. And we want to do that without sugarcoating it, number one, like on one end of the spectrum, and without beating yourself up over it on the other end of the spectrum.
mm,
Right. So we really just want to step in and say, honestly, where am I right now? Like, what is my
mhm,
current reality? Then the next step is, how do I feel? in that current reality? And this is where we get into building some of that emotional vocabulary. Do I feel, humiliated? Do I feel angry, discontent? Like actually naming the feeling. And what I have found when I've worked with women is that we know how to say what we don't want pretty well, but actually saying how we feel is not something that a lot of people have the skill of, right? So we can say what we don't want, but not
Yeah.
actually how we feel. And so you actually need to name that emotion. Okay, so how do I feel in this current reality? Now, when we go through this process, I use a tool called the feelings wheel. You can Google it. I have my
Mhm.
favorite feelings wheel, but I didn't have the vocabulary to say what it is I felt. So the feelings wheel is a fantastic tool to build that vocabulary, to kind of look at that and say, oh yeah, okay, that resonates. That's the word that describes what I'm feeling, or that's the series of words. And usually when you're in a funk, you're living in the contrast. Like, because you know you're in a funk and you know you don't want to be there. So it's you can pretty much pinpoint, especially with the feelings wheel, how you feel in the current reality. Then the next part of that step is, how do you want to feel instead?
Mm.
Right? So let's take my weight loss journey. So I was 50, 60 pounds overweight. I was tired. I was overwhelmed. I didn't feel confident in my own skin, all of those things. How did I want to feel? I wanted to feel energized. I wanted to feel
Mhm.
confident that I could rock any outfit in my closet, right? That's how I wanted to feel. So you've got to figure out the contrast of where you want to feel. And then the last step is to identify an action that has generated the feeling that you want to feel
Uh-huh.
instead, right? So, when was the last time you felt energized? When was the last time you felt confident in your skin? Okay.
Uh-huh.
So, because when we can anchor the feeling that we want to feel to an action that we can take that has previously created that feeling, that's the next best step. That's the next thing you do. Okay.
So
So,
in your weight loss example,
yes.
where what did you see
Yeah. Yeah.
as a past example?
Right. So with the weight loss, well, let me give you a more recent experience. So I was publishing I was in the throes leading up to publishing the book. Okay, this is in January, very recent example, several months ago, and I had kind of abandoned some of my healthy eating habits and all of that, right? So because I was blowing and going, and so by the time I got to the end of the day, dinner was a bag of popcorn and a protein bar. Like, because I had no gas left in the engine. Like, I
Right.
was not taking care of myself. And at the end of the day, it's like I need something quick and convenient, and I don't feel like cooking because I got nothing left. And
Yeah.
so you build that up, and then I got, like, in early February, I got on the scale and I was like, oh crap. Like, shoot, this is not where I want to be, right? And so I had to sit down and check in. I'm like, what's my current reality?
Mm.
Right? I'm not where I want to be. Like, the number on the scale is evidence of what I feel in my clothes. My clothes are tight,
Yeah.
my energy is low. And so I could very clearly say how I felt then. How did I want to feel? I wanted to be energetic. I wanted to get to the end of the day and feel confident that any good choices that I made during the day weren't going to be, tanked by a bag of popcorn. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so I wanted to feel confident. I wanted to navigate my day feeling self-assured that I could show up as the best version of myself. So self-assured is that emotion that I was looking
Mhm.
for. So
Uh-huh.
then I was like, and I did this on a Saturday morning. Gosh, I remember it like crystal clear. And I was like, okay, what was I doing the last time I felt confident and self-assured in how I was showing up with my nutrition and eating and energy and all of that? And immediately, I mean, it was like an immediate download. And I believe the divine gives us those things. And it was so simple. It was when you had a plan, when you actually took the time to, like, meal plan and do the prep and all of that. And
Mhm.
so the next thing I did, I'm like, okay, well, let's do that. And for the record, I absolutely hate meal planning and prep. It stresses me out. But in that moment, that one action I could take 30 minutes
Yeah.
and I could research some healthy recipes, put together a grocery list, and go on and place a grocery order to be picked up, because who has time to go grocery shopping these days, right? And I'm telling you, inside, like, that whole process, including placing the grocery order, took me about 45 minutes. And it
Hmm.
100% turned my day around
Yeah,
because I
I
had
can
a
see
plan.
that.
I took an action that
Yeah.
I knew was going to lead to how I wanted to feel: confident, energized, self assured,
Well, and
right?
I can see that you were definitely doing self care. I think sometimes when we are
Yes.
taking care of ourselves, you
Hmm.
know, um,
Yes.
there's an energy that comes, there's an emotion of well
Hmm.
being
Yes.
that kind of supports what we're trying to
Yes.
accomplish, that vision that you have of how you want to
Yes.
feel.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mm,
And then, the tail end of that story, I got that grocery order. I did, 45 minutes of prep the next day on that Sunday for the week, and that was a phenomenal week because I had a plan. I had prepped. So I went through my day knowing, hey, I've got a plan. It's already planned out. All I have to do is XYZ. It's not going to take
yeah.
me a whole lot of time. And so the result is I showed up better during the day because I wasn't staring at a bag of, Jiffy Pop, in the evening.
Yeah.
And so I felt confident during the day because I knew I had a plan. I didn't have to think of something at last minute. And the result was, like, I dropped those pounds super quick. And so then I was more comfortable in my clothes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all of that. So one action, and then the next step. So that Monday, it was like, I'm gonna eat what I planned. And then the next
Yeah.
day and the next day and the next day. And it actually generated the feeling that I wanted to feel. And
Yeah.
that's just a really basic, kind of pivoting out of the funk. But it's those steps that you can go through to, when you're ready to
Yeah.
shift. Because I think that's key. You got to be
Yeah.
ready to say, okay, I'm done. What can I do in this moment
Yeah.
to help me shift?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in your book too, you talk about mindset and you
Hmm.
talk about the mindset inventory.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
would be really great to see
Yeah.
if there are, ways that we can use those things when we're in a funk.
Yes. Oh, I love this. So the mindset inventory actually came about when I was in a funk. Actually, I had stopped drinking, so I decided to quit drinking for 100 days because it just wasn't serving me well. And I
Mhm.
wasn't showing up. And so it started as 100 days. I'm on like day 850 right now. Like, I kept going. I kept going, but I realized that when I was using wine to cope with emotions that I didn't know how to name, feel, and
Mm.
acknowledge, right? And so through that process, I realized that I replaced wine with playing Farm Hero Saga on my phone, or Candy Crush, right? Or binge watching. Like, those are like my go-to kind of check out coping mechanisms. And
Uh-huh.
what I found is, when I was binge watching and scrolling and gaming on my phone, those inputs were keeping me in comparative reality. They were keeping
Mhm.
me stuck. I wasn't seeing, like, I'd given up this big vice that I had, but I had replaced it with something else. And so what I realized was, like, and I realized, okay, I've replaced one thing with another thing. That isn't necessarily a good thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's what we do, because, again, our brains are designed to keep us safe, predictable, right? And so when we upset the apple cart that our brain is used to, we're gonna, we go kind of into, okay, I've got to fill that gap, right?
Yeah.
So the mindset inventory became a way for me to say, okay, what's going in what am I consuming, right? So in personal development circles, you've probably heard the saying, your thoughts shape your beliefs fuel your actions, and your actions dictate your results. And that is 100% true.
Mhm.
But I think there's a step before the thoughts, and that is, what you consume, what you read, what you watch, what you scroll, who you spend time with shapes your
Uh-huh.
thoughts. And so the mindset inventory, I've developed, I do this like almost automatically now, but I developed this into like an assessment or an inventory to say, okay, what are those inputs going into the noggin that are going to
Yeah.
help, that are going to fuel those thoughts of comparative reality. I'm not good enough. I'm not worth it. I'm not, all of those negative kind of damning, recurring thoughts that keep us stuck. And it's like, okay, we need to look at what we're putting in,
Yeah.
if we don't like our results. And
Yeah.
so what I have found in my life and in the life of my clients that I've worked with is that let's look, like if you're spending a lot of time scrolling Facebook, Instagram, YouTube shorts, like first of all, is a very easy time suck. Like you can sit down for 20, think it's 20 minutes and it's an hour and a half later and you're like, oh my gosh. Right. But what you've consumed, all of that is going in. All of that is making an impression.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's going to impact your thoughts and which dictate our beliefs. Right. And all our beliefs are practiced thoughts. Practiced thoughts. Limiting beliefs are practiced thoughts that keep you small and safe and stuck.
Yeah.
Right.
So good the way that you've
Yeah.
been able to articulate that,
Mm, yeah.
because it's like connecting the dots for people, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I happen to be very linear in how I think, and so when I'm putting these things together, it's like, okay, one, not everything is linear, of course, but I found success in that. It's like, okay, let's go back to the root. What's the root? Just
Yeah.
like with pivoting out of the funk, the root always is the emotion.
Yeah.
It's always the emotion. You think about, people who've struggled with emotional eating, and I've health coached for years as well. I've worked with hundreds of clients with, trying to change their habits and all of that. But all of that is the root. The root of that is some emotion. Either we think we're going to feel by eating, or some emotion that we are trying to numb, escape, or ignore or stuff.
I know.
Right?
I just
Yeah.
had that happen not long ago.
Yeah.
I had been on a trip, and I think my listeners know that I'm definitely a food addict, and I've been in a 12-step program for 25 years
Mm,
on it.
mm,
And it was really hard for me to get my food, but I, muscled through the week, got home, and it was like, oh, making up for lost time. Like, I'm going to go to the store, and I was buying stuff like we were going to have, like, the stores were going out of business, like, I gotta make sure I have this
mm.
now. There was this part of me which was in that anxious state of not having what I need.
Yes.
And I could definitely see that it was on me in that moment. And I
Mm.
was seeing myself doing visions of binging and, just
Yeah.
all of that. But the
Yeah.
emotion up front, way up front, was that I felt that I hadn't gotten enough. So I was in scarcity, I
Yeah.
was in fear.
Mhm.
And that
Yeah.
was like, once I kind of got in terms with that, um, and shout out to my sponsor who heard me vent for a while so I could
Love it.
uncover it. But it was like, it just took me time to backtrack, like,
Yeah.
oh, I see. And going with the IFS part, the little girl was feeling very much like she was
Yes.
in, scarcity and fear.
Fear. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but in the moment, I mean, I think, Molly, what you give people is the opportunity to see it faster so
Mm.
they don't have to do damage to themselves. It's
Yeah.
not intentional damage. I mean, for
No.
me, it was like I came back, I muscled through what I needed to get through, got home, and it was like, oh,
Yeah.
it was catching up. It was like
Yeah.
catching up with myself in that
Yeah.
moment to say
Yeah.
what had happened, what was going on.
Yeah.
And like you're helping us see like what's at the bottom there.
Yes. Right.
What's that emotional muscle that's
That's
happening
right.
that's getting flexed?
That protector part,
Oh,
that
totally.
that protector part. And so the ability to name that emotion and say, okay, I see you.
Yeah.
I understand. I understand why you're, and so then the healing part comes with, a sponsor, with a therapist,
Yeah.
and kind of processing through all of that. But, building those skills of being able to say, yeah, I was anxious.
Yeah.
And so this is how it manifested in my decisions.
Yes.
And sometimes those neural pathways are just so deep that you're already at the grocery store and
Mhm.
you're buying out the shelves of all the favorite things, right?
Well,
Before you even
the
before you
things
even
that are quote good for me
good for
versus
me.
the things that had not been good for me. But
Right,
it is
right.
so true. The neural pathway, I think sometimes our programs and our books and the things that we read are trying to help us like go,
Mhm.
okay, we're
Yeah,
developing a new pathway and this one needs a lot of attention, a lot of support. It's not
yeah.
going to be just um, an easy transition because
Yeah.
it is so deep. I had no idea. I've been in 12 steps for 25 years.
Mm,
This
yeah.
isn't this
New.
happened right. I mean, this is not
Yeah.
a newbie walking in going, "Oh,
Yeah.
then what has happened?" No, here I am 25 years later going, oh my God, I was in
Yeah.
harm's way. I didn't know it. I didn't know how to, all the things
Mhm.
that I see now that I could have done differently and that
Yeah.
I would like setting a boundary, like making a request, like,
Yeah.
speaking up to say, I'm hungry for my food. You can have your stuff, but I need my food.
That's right.
Just
Yeah.
but the
Yeah.
people pleasing part got in there, trying to be a good guest, trying to be helpful. All of those
Mhm.
other things played a role too for me. And I get to
Yeah.
see all of that stuff when I imagine you do the work with you that your
Yeah.
clients get to see
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
all
Yeah.
those aspects.
Yeah.
Well, I know it's
All intertwined.
I know. Gosh.
All of it.
Well, I think do you have a free offer or something around the
I
mindset
do.
inventory
I
that you want to
do.
tell our folks about?
Absolutely. So you can go to my website, nextbeststep.co, and you can take the mindset inventory for yourself, and we'll get a good gauge of where you are. And then happy to hop on a call and just talk it through and see, okay, what is the next best step for you? I
Yeah.
also have a breakthrough blocker quiz on there that anybody can take. And that really is helping identify, do we have some trapped emotions there? That are still under the surface, and what does it look like to build those skills to help attune and name those emotions, but then also release, man, that which is no longer serving you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so powerful. So yes, please hit up my website. You can see that both of those things there, nextbeststep.co.
I know that one of the things I told you was I just loved how you ended your book.
Yeah.
And listeners, I've asked her to read a portion of it. So you're in
Yeah.
for such a treat. Thanks.
All
Bye.
right. Okay. So this is from the very last page of the book. It says, remember, alignment isn't a destination you reach once and for all. It's a process, a practice, a journey. It's about tuning in, adjusting as you go, and staying open to what feels right for you. And yes, there will be moments when you get off track, because we all get off track, right? But when that happens, instead of beating yourself up, which we are all very good at beating ourselves up, I want you to pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what is your next best step? That simple question will always guide you back to your true self.
Mm, isn't that lovely? That is so nice.
And it works.
Yeah,
It
it's
works.
beautifully written. Beautifully
Thank you.
written.
Thank you.
Um, so I know you mentioned your website, but is there anything else you'd like to tell our listeners about how they can follow you and get your book?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, you can find my book either on my website, happy to send autographed copy out there, or you can find it on Amazon. It's on Amazon as well. And I'm on Instagram. My handle is molly.positivepants. That's a little bit of a moniker.
Isn't that
And
great?
I, you know, sometimes life is lifing and you got to put your positive pants back on and just continue
Yeah.
moving forward, right? So Molly.positive pants, or on Facebook, my screen name is Molly Moore Smith. And I also have a Facebook community called the Next Best Step Community, and any of your listeners are welcome to join that community as well. We're talking
Cool.
real and raw and all of those things in that community as well.
Well, I always ask my guests, what would you tell your 20 something self now? Oh my
Mm.
God. You've had
Mm.
so much insight and wisdom over your years.
Well, I have to tell you that I will answer your question, but I'm going to preface it in that as I was last summer, as I was getting a lot of trapped emotions released, I had probably 100 trapped emotions released just from the years ages 25 and 26. You know, so it's like, what in the blazes was I doing right around then? You know what I'm saying? It was like, I don't, I do now. I can look back and it's like, yeah, I was holding on to a story of how I thought my life should be and
Oh,
not
yes.
necessarily carving a path for what I truly wanted. Right.
Yeah.
So discovering what I truly wanted in life, what energized me, what filled my cup. Gosh, I mean, I didn't discover that until a handful of years ago. So if I'm talking to my 20-year-old self, I'm going to say that your worth as a human is not tied to anything external,
Mm.
anything external. Your worth is inherently yours. It doesn't matter what title you have. I spent 25 years climbing the corporate ladder to get to the C level to realize like this is not for me. This is not aligned for me. But I spent decades chasing that external self-worth and accolades and promotions and raises and all those things to validate who I was. And you know what? None of that matters.
Mhm.
None of it ties to my worth. So get grounded in who you are, figure out what energizes you, and then blaze a path forward. That's
Oh,
what I'd say. Yeah.
I just love when I hear the answers to this question because there is so much wisdom in that what we can provide to
Yeah.
ourselves. Because really what we're doing, right, is we're talking to ourselves and our little 20 something self girl in there, in our
Yeah.
case,
Yeah.
our woman who's developing and
Yeah.
has just in my case, such a positive view on things like
Mm.
naivete
Yeah.
was my
Yeah.
middle name. Oh well. Oh well.
Love it.
It
Love
all
it.
works out
Yes,
somehow.
it does. There's
But
purpose in all of it.
I think you got a chance to go to our online store and check it out. Was there
I
something that
did.
spoke to you?
I mean, immediately when I saw this card, I was like, oh yeah. And it's the one that's trust your gut, you know what to do. Now, I don't know if you know about human design at all, if you're familiar with human design, but which is it's really, really cool. But my authority is I have sacral authority. So when I make decisions anywhere in my life, it's like, what is my like? It's a gut yes. It's like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, done. Like absolutely, right? If I have any reservation, that's my red flag. Sometimes I blow through it, I'm not perfect or whatever,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
when it's a gut yes, it's like, yeah, that's meant for me. That's meant for me.
Oh,
So
that's so
trust your
good.
gut.
I love
Yes,
the snarky catch. It's just always been one of my faves to work with. So
totally. Yeah,
glad
yeah,
it resonated.
yeah.
Molly, thank you so much for joining us.
Mm,
What a deep and rich conversation.
mm,
And your authenticity is just marvelous. So thank you. And your
mm.
energy. Oh my God. Love your
Thank
energy.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Thank you. I absolutely love doing this and I could talk about this stuff all day long. So I so appreciate you having me. I so appreciate you having me.
Thanks. Thanks so much for joining us today. If Molly's story gave you something to think about or helps you name a feeling you've been carrying around, I'd love it if you'd leave a review wherever you're listening to your podcast. It helps more listeners find the show and feel supported along the way. And if someone in your life feels stuck, overwhelmed, or in a funk, send them this episode. You never know what one good share might unlock for them. You're always welcome to join our public Facebook group, Girl Take the Lead, or check out our website, girltaketheleadpod.com, for more episodes, resources, and cards and gifts from our store. We're also on YouTube. Just search a Girl Take the Lead and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Yes, the full episodes are there and available on YouTube Music and Video, and you can also get video on Spotify. A few of my favorite quotes from Molly. Quote, "Our beliefs are practical thoughts, and limiting beliefs are the ones that keep us small and stuck." Another one, "When pivoting out of the funk, the root is always the emotion." And then, "Alignment isn't a destination, it's a daily practice." I thought those were so good. Here are 3 key takeaways from today's episode. 1, unnamed emotions can keep us stuck. Tools like the emotion code and muscle testing help identify and release the trapped energy. 2, alignment starts with awareness. Ask, where am I? How do I feel? And what do I want to feel instead? And 3, what you consume shapes your mindset. The mindset inventory is a powerful way to reset and redirect your thoughts. Coming up next week on Girl Take the Lead, I'm joined by Michelle Weldon, award-winning author, journalist, TEDx speaker, and emerita faculty at Northwestern University. We'll talk about her new book, The Time We Have, Essays on Pandemic Living, and explore how those intense years reshaped how we think about time, connection, and ourselves. You won't want to miss it. Until then, be kind to yourself, lead with intention, and remember, you got this. Talk to you soon. Bye.